couple of years ago when they had to emergency land a plane in the Hudson River. Yeah, y'all remember this? Okay, so first of all, I have a small fear of flying, right? And by small, I mean pretty damn big. Second of all, I was in New York City on the day of. I had traveled all day, I hadn't seen the news, and I was doing a show, and halfway through my show, this kid just stands up and goes, "Yo, you heard they crashed a plane in the Hudson today?" What? He said, "Yeah." I said, "Where was it coming from?" He said, "LaGuardia." I said, "Oh, that's where I leave from tomorrow." "Where was it headed?" He said, "Charlotte, North Carolina." I said, "No shit, that's where I live." "And what airline was it on?" He said, "US Air." I said, "I'm screwed." And I say that to say this: I hate to fly because they start off every flight the same way in case of an emergency. Whether it's turbulence or terrorists or engine failure, they tell you oxygen masks will be released from overhead. Please place this mask over your face and remember to secure your own before you help those around you. But when the emergency finally happens, y'all, that is not what people do. Kind of like the older couple sitting across from me, who I can tell is still very much in love by the way he holds her trembling, flight-fearing hands, or how the laugh lines in his cheeks are stronger than the stress lines that cross his brow, or by the way they whisper wishes to one another, that if this plane ever went down, they would climb into each other because they want to die with a taste of their lover's skin soaking across their memory in case of an emergency. And this cabin loses electricity. They tell me that a lighted pathway will appear following the island. I feel like standing up and saying, "I'm sorry, y'all, but that's my fault. I brought a lot of extra baggage on board. And I think my sins might be weighing down this plane." But Sin's almost sacred in the case of the mother and son who sit in front of me. See, she lost a husband, he lost a father once while their son was sick, laying in a hospital bed suffering from a disease that made his heart too big. But fathers know best. Like when this father knew that he and his son had the same blood type, and if the doctors couldn't find a transplant in time, he knew no doctor would refuse his son his own heart if he was to commit suicide, and he hung himself so that his son could become the man he'd always seen in the back of those little 8-year-old eyes in a state of an emergency. Kind of like the doubled over ancient woman who sits directly next to me, a Jewish German woman who hid in Poland during World War II, pregnant and alone, scared that one day her neighbors would tell the Nazis of her existence, knowing before long she would hear German soldiers jogging up the steps like they were stomping up the nerves in her spine. So every morning she'd pick up her only earthly possession, a half-beaten cello. She would hold it up close to her bulging body and she would play "I Love You" into every note she's ever known, because she knows she may not get to see her son grow. Y'all, she's a survivor. Kind of like the flight attendant who's been talking all this time. He prays to a God he's decided to believe in, even though on most days he doesn't think God believes in him back. And I can see his whole story from sitting right there in the 6th row. He couldn't run from his gay-bashing father fast enough, so now he flies. He's wanted to get away ever since he was first called names. As a matter of fact, he's probably been called a pansy more than I've ever been called honest. And honestly, y'all, it's the other way around. Because on most days, I'm a coward. I'm ready for any emergency. We've been trained to practice panic our entire lives, y'all, not passion. So when it comes to sink or to swim, most of us look under our seats for life preservers and we just decide to float. If asked to brace for impact, please place your head between your knees and kiss your ass goodbye. Because in case of an emergency, in case of certainty, one of these days we're all gonna die. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome aboard the rest of your lives, and please begin to prepare yourselves for a state of emergency.